Monk Mode, welcome back. Hi, Thumos. Hope you're doing well. Today, we got to talk about resurrecting something that is being lost and it's dying. And since it's dying in the West, in Europe, Asia, all across the world, it's dying and it's leaving us men weak and vulnerable. Vulnerable to be manipulated and influenced by things that we don't even see. Okay, it's making us miserable. Guys, we are the leaders of the family. And if we become weak and lose our purpose and lose direction, then the women become weak. The children become miserable because they can't look to their father to be a solid grounding force in their life. And I'm telling you that we're entering a dark time if we become manipulated and don't really figure this out. So it needs to be talked about, and I'm going to talk about it because it's up to me, it's up to you to resurrect this dying thing, which is belief, okay? And it's critical that when you listen to this talk, you got to open your mind. You got to put aside everything and all the books that you've been reading and all of the stuff that you heard, all of the stuff that's intellectual. You got to put it away for a little bit and just hear me out, okay? We have to bring back the belief. We have been telling each other stories forever. Stories help us understand each other. When you read a good book, it helps you relate to the characters in there. And I've noticed that in shows, in movies, in video games, when there's a lack of human interaction, it's very hard to remember them or to enjoy them. Stories teach us empathy. They teach us the inner workings of the mind. They show us different scenarios with people. They help us remember. They help us figure things out. They teach us the games that humans play. We've been telling each other stories forever. We don't care about stuff that doesn't have humans in it. You see, there's a game where an alien gets dropped from a ship and he's going around shooting all the cows and everything. You get bored for a little bit. Planet of the Apes. I don't know, maybe you love that movie. I hated Planet of the Apes. I can't think of any shows. But you have to understand what I'm saying is that we have been mapping out the entire world and our existence through stories. And when your story is, the consciousness takes this story and it imprints it on the subconscious. So the conscious mind is taking everything that you ingest, everything that you put in, that you perceive, and you dwell on. When you dwell on that, it imprints itself into the subconscious. And that becomes you. So every day is a stamp. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, don't forget Wednesday, Friday. Always getting stamped, always changing, and always becoming, and always being imprinted on. Stories were meant to make that stamp, make sure that it doesn't go off, to make sure that it's not tainted or poisoned, to keep things in order, to keep you as an individual highly functional and competent and healthy and filled with vitality, vigor, to be somebody, to be a leader. When we started to develop as humans, I believe we started to understand, or there's always been a deep understanding that we're just here and we don't see the bigger picture. We don't know what space was. We didn't know what the sun was. We didn't know what the moon was. We didn't know what the stars meant. We had no idea. Is the earth flat? Is it round? So we started to tell each other stories. The stories started to evolve. We started to believe them. We started to tell them to each other. And imagine how it would have been to be back then with very little technology and to sort of come across these stoic principles that we don't know what is out there. We don't know what this is. All we do know is that we're here. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of seasons. There's a lot of cold, famine days. There's people trying to hurt you. There's animals that will hurt you. There's suffering, and there's these babies that are trying to be born, and people are dying. And imagine the stories that we tell ourselves. And so, what is one thing that can provide some sort of relief for this chaos and this suffering that you're dealing with? Belief. Belief that there is something, that you are a part of a bigger something, and that you don't know what it is. And that there is something that does know what it is. And that you can rely on that something that makes all of this okay. You can rely, you can trust it. But just saying that doesn't make sense. You would actually have to tell a story about this something. Just saying and maybe understanding that is nice and all, but then when you go to the market and the guy selling bread, cheats you, backstabs you, when you suffer, your friend or your enemy comes up to you, you're going to forget this story. When you're going through hard times, the knowing, that you will die one day, and that's that. You don't have to worry too much. It's still very difficult unless you believe in something. And so what I believe happened is we gave a name to this something, and we called it God. And we started to believe in God. We started to believe that there was something out there that we could trust in to make everything here okay. And you will actually know this as you read different texts, ancient texts. There's different names given to God that resemble very strong and powerful forces in nature. He is known as the lion. He is known as the rock, the fortress. Evil, in the Bible at least, first showed up as a very sinister, sort of unpredictable animal. A snake, a serpent, something that immediately frightens us and makes us cringe back because we don't know how it does what it does. It doesn't have legs. It's unlike anything else. It moves, we don't know how it moves. It gets from point A to point B, we don't know what it's doing. It scares us. It's dangerous. It could kill you. Evil is tricky. Evil is manipulative. You have to watch out for it. You don't always understand why you feel anger or greed or why people do what they do, why people do evil. So you have to look for the snake. You have to look for the serpent. What influenced, how did it come into your life? Now let's not get too departed from the original point of this. We gave God, we created this story to help us remember God. And we would return to this story every day. We made text of it. We started to talk about it in our community. God was something that we could depend on. Because it, not in a sense where we could do nothing and wake up at camp and not hunt that day, or just sit around and be bums and go around and be degenerates. No, God was someone that we would tune our mind to, and we would connect with, and that repetition, the rote of that ingrained itself in our head. That way we could face the trials and the tribulations that would happen to us throughout our life. And when you believe that, and you get everyone in the community to believe that, living is a lot easier. Things make a lot more sense. There's peace among the camp. When everyone is tuning their mind to this over, and it's sort of like a stoic understanding. When you tune your mind to that, things become much better. Now imagine if you were all in the same camp and you believe different things. How much chaos would be there? There would be a lot. And that's what ended up happening is we all came from different parts of the world. There was different ways. But also similarities, and these stories paralleled each other. But what ended up happening is we became to believe them so much. We let the manipulative thing, the human mind and the thoughts, we let that override our greater sense of understanding. We let the story become almost too much, I think. And we started to bring our own structure and something crept in there, man, that I'm not sure, that almost perverted things or twisted it. And it made it too man-made, too structured, where it was less about connecting and in a daily renewing of the mind, to the heavens, to God, to honoring what is above, to what is around us, to the unknown. And it became more of how do we do something with this religion? We made structure, we made a day, we made the beads, we made the mats, we made the I don't know, we made ritual, which is fine, but it became so much where these religions would come together and there would be fighting and there would be wars, and that was never the purpose of it. It wasn't for that. And so what I've realized is many, many men, we've had enough. We've had enough of that. It seems insane. And we're just forgetting the original purpose. We're forgetting the original story. We're forgetting that it is very, very powerful to have a relationship with this. That this can give you an understanding. That this can give you a powerful feeling of peace. You see, like when your mind is filled with guilt and shame and anger and just frustration, the vitality you lose from trying to give your personality or your character relief from that, from giving your mind relief from that, that's draining. You have very little energy for anything else, to make the community better, to make things better, to be creative, to work. And all of us are, nowadays, we're feeling that big time. But that gives us relief. That gives us a reason not to fear. Oh, God gives us a reason not to feel guilt or shame for our past. We're forgiven. Everything is okay. All we have is today. And so there is a way, I believe, that that we're supposed to live. We go to bed at night, we now wake to a fresh consciousness that is ready to be stamped on again. And so what there should be is a renewing of the mind. It says in the Bible, do not conform, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We're supposed to renew our minds daily. And the only way that would make sense for us to renew our minds is to put stuff in there that tunes our minds again upward. I'm saying upward. It could be just tunes our minds to things that are to the understanding, to the bigger picture. When you turn on the news, you're not tuning your mind to something greater. What you are doing is limiting yourself, and you're installing fear in there. You're installing something that causes fear and worry. It's stirring up chaos in you. It's not the story that you need to be focused on. You're supposed to transform yourself by the renewing of your mind. In Psalms, David would wake up. He said, "Awake, O my soul. O rise, harp and lyre. Make a joyful noise." We were meant to get up, to rejoice, to have gratitude. Gratitude will actually change your entire life. But you will not have gratitude if you don't focus on the right things. It's hard to be an individual that has no belief and no faith. It's hard to express gratitude on a daily basis unless you provide some sort of ritual there. One of the rituals was to get up, to say grace, to give your thanks to the Lord. It was to maybe on Sunday to sing, to dance, to honor Him, to remember. It's a remembering thing. The mind is powerful. It gets confused, man. You put too many stories in there. Then you start to muddle the waters. You start to make it weird. And so I think that you have to renew your mind on a daily basis. And that means that you wake up and you make a joyful noise. That means that you wake up and maybe you read this. You fill your mind with this library, the Bible, or whatever you would like to read. All the religions and the books, the text, they have similar stories. It's not about which one is right. You got to understand it's not about that. It's about what helps you remember. What helps you put your eyes on God. What fills you with that gratitude and that joy. This is like a library with simple, bite-sized verses that are easily remembered, that over time form a complete library, a complete powerhouse inside of your head. Something to call on, for God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and love. What should I fear? Why do I have to fear? I don't have to fear. You know, if I actually tell myself that, understand that, I learn that, and I start to see that, that becomes ingrained in my subconscious. I realize I don't have to fear. More than ever, there's a lot of fearful men. Anxiety-ridden, depressed, fearful. And that's not what you've been born with. You weren't born some messed up human being. You weren't born, flawed. You weren't born in this. You weren't born. There's nothing wrong with you. As you read the books, I've noticed in some of these older books, there's a different tone. And there's a more of a gracious gratitude tone in the way that they speak. And it seems like now man has tried to make everything, they've tried to depart from the story and be their own unique. And you see it in a lot of the new text, the subtle art of not giving an F. You see there's a lack of, there's wisdom there, there's real wisdom there, but it lacks the story. It lacks the same, I don't know how to put it, there's a different tone there. And that's what I'm noticing. And that's all I have to say to you guys, is that we have to renew our minds on a daily basis. We have to rise up and we have to spread with insight, with understanding, with wisdom. We have to be able to share this message with other people. And we have to get away from the cringing back whenever we hear God, the name God, whenever we hear these things, because it's not the case. You've been deceived. You've been deceived, and we're being deceived, guys. It's making us weak. We're getting lonely. We're isolated from the community, from a tribe of men that come together in fellowship. And that's what we're doing here. But you have to do this in your own life. You have to live the life. You have to keep your eyes on God. And then I'll show you. You can be at peace. It'll teach you how to live day after day after day. Renew your mind. Do not conform to society. Do not conform with all of the stuff and all the trends and everyone telling you that this is how do you do it. No. Keep your eyes on God. It'll teach you how to live. Read the text. Put it in your head. Okay? Remember though, you don't want to become someone that believes to a point where you begin to cast out anyone else and to ridicule and to judge, because you're not God. You don't get to judge everyone else. You understand? You need to develop a personal relationship with the Father, with God, with what is greater. Okay? And that's for us to figure out. Okay? He will help us know what is right, to know ourselves. We call him He because he's powerful, right? You got to think about this, man. All right? So that's it, guys. I hope you have a blessed day. I'll see you soon. Peace.